So maybe you're a John Mayer fan and you've been learning a couple of his songs. You've learned all the pentatonic boxes, but when you're doing improvisation, you just feel like something's missing. It's just not sounding like exactly right and you can't quite put your finger on it. I already know the scales, I've learned some of the licks. Why does my improvisation not sound like these blues artists like Stevie Ray, John Mayer, B.B. King? So I'm going to give you the 2 tips that really helped me elevate my blues improvisation and made me sound more like my heroes. So to do this today, you will need to know the first box of the minor pentatonic, along with the second box, which is technically the major pentatonic box. If you don't know them, I'll show you them really quick. Make sure you have these boxes down before you continue. If you already know them, just skip like the next 20 seconds. So the minor pentatonic, we're going to do this example in A. The major pentatonic, starting off A as well, we're going to start on the same root note, so the 5th fret of the top string. Okay, so tip 1, you need to be able to mix and match between major and minor pentatonic. This works because in a 12-bar blues, we're using predominantly dominant 7th chords. Because of the position of the flat 7s, we can actually get away with applying both of these scales over the top of each other. And the fact that we're just using the 1, 4, and 5 chord, a lot of our target tones within those arpeggios actually sit within the major and minor pentatonic box. But we don't need to think of it from a theory end. Again, let's just think of it as the happy voice or the sweet voice, and then the angry voice. So I'm going to put a 12-bar blues on the screen. Now the best way I would recommend you to practice this is over the 1 chord, we're going to use the major pentatonic box. And over the 4 and the 5 chord, we're going to use the minor pentatonic box. This is a really good place to start, just to get used to switching between the boxes. So I'll show you an example of what this might sound like. The 1 chord. The 4. Angry. 1 chord. Happy. 1 chord. Happy. 4 chord. Back to the 1. Happy again. And so on. So start with doing that, and that will help you get used to interchanging the scales. Now once you're comfortable with that, to get those spicy sounds you're really looking for in your lines, you need to be able to change between these mid-lick. So for example, maybe on bar 4, where I'm going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, we could do something like this. So for that, I started by emphasizing the major third, sliding into this note here, and then you can do a quick little lick with the minor pentatonic. Or we could start with the minor pentatonic and emphasize ending on that major third. And that gives it that little lift at the end, or that happy ending to it. Again, you just need to really mix and match this and go through it. But the more you get comfortable with it, you'll start to hear those sounds that you've been looking for. Now, step number 2 is probably the most important thing with blues. More than speed or anything like that. One of the most iconic blues guitarists, B.B. King, wasn't ever known for his speed, but his ability to create these sweet melodies. So for phrasing, an easy way to think about it is how we're using the notes that we have, and interesting ways we can color them. So for blues, it's vibrato and bends. Maybe some legato runs, but predominantly really work on your bends and your vibrato. Some ideas with phrasing and scales right is the easiest one is bends. You can even pre-bend notes, so bend and then go down. It has this almost like crying effect. And choking the bends, which means just stopping the sound at the top. A great way to practice this is just to pick like 5 notes.
Nice.
So let's use the top 5 notes of the major pentatonic scale. So it's just going to be these 5 here, starting on the 2nd finger. So only use those 5 notes, but get as creative as possible with your bends and your vibrato. And really push them to the limits, and you'll be surprised how much you can get out of them. can't stress how important this is. Really focus on your phrasing. Because that's the difference. Like, if you think of all the blues players, they're all using the same scale for the most part, right? The pentatonic box overlaid over each other. But it's the way they phrase. That's how when you hear a piece of music, you know straight away if it's Stevie Ray, if it's John Mayer, if it's B.B. King, if it's Albert King. It's the way they're phrasing the notes. If you want a masterclass on vibrato, just watch Stevie Ray Vaughan live. That guy has an insane vibrato, man. I remember being mesmerized the first time I watched Texas Flood live. Like, Stevie must have had absolutely next level calluses on his fingers. Oh, he's just a legend, man. Absolute legend. Or B.B. King, which I copied for a lot of years. With his very sweet vibrato where he takes his wrist off the neck. But if you find you're really stuck on phrasing and you don't really know how to approach it, listen to a lot of blues music. That video of John Mayer and B.B. King playing, I probably have watched this 100 times. Probably more, maybe 1,000 times. And what I used to do is put it on and try and learn every single lick that they played in that song. Now, you don't need to get that extreme, but you'll be surprised how much just listening to a style of music is going to help develop your sense of phrasing. Because you have to hear things before you're able to apply them to the instrument. And once you've been doing it for long enough, you'll be able to sing your lines as you play. As you improve at it, I guarantee it will open up your vocabulary with blues. Just focusing in on your phrasing and being able to switch between the major and the minor pentatonic. Whatever works for you, maybe take a bit from each legend and create your own style through improvisation. Artists like John Mayer himself, I remember the first time I heard B.B. King and Stevie Ray, and like a light bulb went off and I was like, that's where he got it. Not that he copied them or anything, but that's where the inspiration came from to start developing the modern day sound of John Mayer. And if you listen to some of his early jams where he was playing live in college, it sounds so much like Stevie Ray. And then even more interesting, if you go back from Stevie Ray, you can hear Hendrix in his playing, which was one of Stevie's biggest influences. So it's always about just taking a bit from legends and inspiration and applying it to the guitar and creating your own sound. So those 2 tips were the things that really made me sound more like my blues idols I was listening to.